All right, you guys wanted to dive deep into building wealth, and wow, did we find the perfect article for this?
Oh, absolutely.
This one is called Seven Mistakes Keeping You from Getting Rich. And we're going to break down each one.
Yeah.
But we're going to go a step further and talk about how these mistakes could be impacting your finances.
Right.
So let's just jump right into it, shall we? Mistake number one,
Okay.
listening to the wrong advice. And I feel like this is something,
Oh, yeah.
especially, early on in your career, everybody's got an opinion
Everybody.
on your money. Friends, family,
Right.
that guy at the gym who suddenly is a financial guru. How do you navigate that?
Well, I think this is where the article's point about mentorship really comes into play.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned Mr. Beast in the notes.
Yes.
He calls mentors and consultants cheat codes
Yeah.
because essentially they've already been there, done that, made the mistakes,
Right.
and they can kind of shortcut you through all that.
Yeah. It makes sense, but then how do you find the right mentor,
Right.
Because not everyone who's had success is a good teacher.
Sure. Yeah.
And even some, well-meaning advice can really backfire.
Absolutely. And I think the article also brings up the idea that
Okay.
you shouldn't just form opinions based on headlines or what you see
Right.
from, just a little bit of information.
Right.
You really have to do the deep research. You really have to vet your sources, whether that's a mentor, whether that's an article.
Oh, I see. So vetting your sources. Okay.
Yeah. You got to look for a track record, not just
Right.
sort of promises.
Not just the flash in the pan.
Exactly. Yeah.
So have you ever fallen for bad advice? Or what are some of the red flags that you maybe missed?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, early on, especially, I think I was swayed by
Okay.
sort of a guaranteed return kind of investment scheme.
Oh, yeah.
And looking back, I mean, all the signs were there.
Yeah.
Like really vague explanations, pressure tactics, promises
Right.
that just seemed too good to be true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was an expensive lesson,
Yeah.
but it was a lesson in due diligence.
Definitely. That's a great story and reminder for sure. So, okay, mistake number 2. Paying for status. This is a big one. And it's so easy to get caught up
Oh, huge. Yeah.
in looking rich versus actually building wealth.
Right.
And I thought this was a great point in the article that they made, that even 1,000 good financial decisions can be wiped out by one bad one.
Yeah, that's so true.
Like splurging on a status symbol that, frankly, you can't afford.
Right.
And it's that instant gratification versus the long-term goals.
Right.
And, they even gave a really, I thought, relatable example. You diligently save $100 every month
Uh-huh.
for an entire year, feeling great about yourself, and then, bam, you drop $3,000 on a couple of fancy handbags,
Oh, yeah.
and poof,
There goes your progress.
gone. Have you ever, fallen into a status trap like that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, especially, I think when I was younger, I was very, very fixated
Oh,
on having all the latest gadgets,
yeah.
the newest phone, the newest laptop.
Oh, yeah.
And, I felt like I needed these things to be seen as successful.
Right.
And it took me a while to realize that true wealth
Yeah.
isn't about keeping up with the Joneses.
So true. All right. Mistake number 3, falling for the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Okay.
This is a fascinating one because it's essentially thinking that you're an expert when you've barely even scratched the surface.
Yeah.
And I thought the article used the perfect analogy, beginner's luck,
Oh, yeah.
especially with investing, right? You win a couple of trades and suddenly you're like,
Yeah.
I'm Warren Buffett.
I got this.
Yeah, I got this figured out.
Yeah.
But then reality hits and you're like, oh, I actually don't know anything.
Right. Exactly.
And the article even calls this the valley of despair.
Yeah.
But that's where the real learning begins.
That's it.
So you're riding high on those early wins, and then, you hit this valley.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So how do you avoid that? How do you avoid falling into that trap, especially with finances?
I think self-awareness is key.
Okay.
Asking for feedback,
Yeah.
seeking out different perspectives, being open to being wrong,
Yeah.
all those things.
Right.
But I think the biggest thing is recognizing that expertise, especially in this field,
Right.
is a journey, not a destination.
Right. It's constantly evolving.
It is. It is, yeah.
Which actually, I think that's a great segue into mistake number 4. Short-term thinking versus long-term thinking.
Right.
This is that classic battle of instant gratification
Yeah.
versus delayed reward. And the article made a really great point here that those who build wealth are often prioritizing
Yeah,
learning and growth over an immediate high salary.
that's right. Yeah. They're playing the long game.
Yeah, they're in it for the long haul. And they even quote Warren Buffett here,
Love Warren Buffett.
which is always a good sign. He says, "Wealth is the transfer of money from the impatient to the patient."
Wow.
I mean, mic drop, right?
Yeah, that's deep.
Are we making choices for today, or are we making choices for our future selves?
Right.
It's so easy to, I think, fall into that trap of instant gratification.
Oh, for sure.
What are some practical tips, do you think, that can help people shift
Yeah.
to that longer term mindset when it comes to finances?
I think visualization is incredibly powerful.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on that thing that you want to buy right now,
Yeah.
really visualize your future self.
Yeah.
Like see your future self
Oh, interesting.
10 years from now, 20 years from now,
Yeah.
benefiting from the money that you've
Yeah.
saved and invested today.
That's great. So it's like connecting emotionally with that future self.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, let's talk about mistake number 5, which is
Mhm.
all about understanding the difference between an asset and a liability.
Yes.
And they dive into Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Mm-hmm.
which essentially explains how the wealthy focus on acquiring assets
Yeah.
that put money in their pocket,
Right.
right? So things like rental properties, stocks, businesses.
Right.
And then they gave some good examples of liabilities,
Yeah.
cars, vacations, fancy clothes,
Oh, yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah. All the good stuff.
They take money out of your pocket.
Right. Exactly.
Now, Kiyosaki makes a very kind of controversial argument
He does. He does
that
that.
even your house
Yeah.
can be a liability unless it's, generating income like through rent or if
Yes.
you have, your business there or something.
Were you running a business?
Right, because you think about it, right? Mortgage payments, property taxes, maintenance.
Right.
It can be a real drain.
It can be. Yeah.
So it's, it's challenging that traditional view
Yeah.
of the house as an asset. Where do you kind of fall on that?
I think there's nuance there.
Yeah.
While I agree, a house can be a very large expense.
Yeah.
It also can offer some stability
Sure.
and some long-term appreciation as well.
Right.
It really depends on individual circumstances and their goals.
That's a really good point. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Exactly.
All right, so mistake number 6, relying on a single source of income.
Okay.
And they highlight the limitations here, especially from a traditional job.
Right.
And they even had a great stat. They said multimillionaires have, on average, at least 3 income streams,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, that's powerful. It really emphasizes the need to diversify.
For sure.
And they also brought up a good point that some jobs, entrepreneurs, real estate agents, those have uncapped
Right.
earning potential.
Right.
While others, teachers, police officers, they often have salary caps.
Yeah.
So it's a good distinction to make. So how do you think people, if they're in that traditional 9-to-5 job,
Yeah.
how can they go about exploring those additional income streams?
I think it's really about tapping into your skills and your passions.
Okay.
Maybe you can monetize a hobby, start a side hustle,
Yeah.
invest in dividend-paying stocks or something like that. I think there are tons of possibilities.
Absolutely. All right. Are you ready for the final mistake?
I am. Hit me.
This one hits close to home for a lot of us. Staying in your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And they really emphasize the importance of calculated risk-taking.
Yeah.
Understanding that growth and building wealth
Yeah.
often requires stepping outside of that comfy bubble.
Right.
And to illustrate this, they actually share the author's own personal journey. He left his stable job in tech
Oh, wow.
to become an entrepreneur. He was experimenting with a budgeting app, a poster business, all kinds of things. Talk about a leap of faith. But he had to learn negotiation, how to find suppliers, and overcome all these challenges.
Yeah.
But ultimately it led to, greater financial success and even just personal growth too.
Right. It makes you wonder, though, why posters?
I know, right?
Like, why posters?
Well, we'll have to ask him.
Okay.
But it's a great reminder that sometimes you have to embrace the unknown
You do.
to reach those goals.
For sure.
So, wow, we have covered all 7 mistakes.
We did it.
But before we go any further, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
And we are back. We are talking about these 7 mistakes keeping you from getting rich. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired,
Oh, yeah.
feeling like ready to make some changes.
Absolutely.
But, we left off on that last one, staying in your comfort zone. And I think this is something we all struggle with.
We do.
It's so easy to get complacent, especially when things are, going okay.
Right. But they really hit on this in the article, that to really see that growth, especially financially, you have to take those risks, those calculated risks.
Absolutely. And, it's that old saying, no risk, no reward.
Exactly.
And I think the author's story about leaving that stable job to go be an entrepreneur really exemplifies that.
Right.
He had to learn a whole new skill set, face all these unknowns, but ultimately it did pay off for him.
It's a great reminder that sometimes you have to be willing to, jump.
You do.
To get to that next level.
Yeah.
You do.
So, okay. We've covered all 7 mistakes.
We have.
Let's zoom out. Big picture, what are some of the takeaways here?
Right.
What can you, the listener, apply to your own financial journey?
Well, I think when you look at all 7 of these kind of together, what emerges, I think, is that building wealth, it's not just about hard work. It's also about working smart. It's about adopting that strategic mindset.
Okay. Being willing to learn and adapt.
It's almost like a recipe, right?
It is.
You have to have the right ingredients, the right mindset, and the right actions to create something truly valuable.
That's a great analogy.
And I think this article gives a good framework for doing that.
It does.
And I think it's also just a nice reminder that financial success, it's not, reserved for a select few.
It's not. No.
It really is attainable.
It is.
For anyone who's willing to put in that effort and be open to that growth mindset.
Exactly.
All right, so before we wrap up, I think it's always good to recap, just to kind of solidify these mistakes in our minds.
Absolute.
So ready?
Hit me.
All right. Number 1, listening to the wrong advice. Find those mentors that you can trust.
Yes.
Be wary of those flashy promises, the get-rich-quick schemes.
Right.
Number 2, paying for status.
Ah, yes.
Don't fall into the trap of trying to look rich.
Right.
Focus on building real wealth. Yes.
Through smart investments and smart financial decisions.
That's it.
Number 3, falling for the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Right.
Be humble. Acknowledge your limitations.
Yes.
And always be open to learning, especially in this world of finances.
Yeah, for sure. It's always changing.
Always changing. Exactly. Number 4, short-term thinking versus long-term thinking.
Okay.
Make those decisions that are going to benefit your future self.
Right.
Not just today you. Visualize that future self 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Enjoying, the benefits of what you're doing today.
That's it.
Number 5, buying too many liabilities. Focus on acquiring assets that are putting money in your pocket.
Yes.
Not just, taking it out.
Right.
And remember, even a house can be a liability.
It can.
If it's not, generating income for you.
Right.
Number 6, relying on a single source of income. Diversify.
That's it. Side hustles.
Side hustles, investments, all those things.
Yeah. And finally, number 7, staying in your comfort zone.
Ooh, yeah.
Be willing to take those calculated risks.
Yes.
Step outside that box.
That's it.
Embrace those challenges.
Embrace the unknown.
So this has been amazing. We've explored these mistakes. We've talked about how to avoid them.
Yeah.
How to make those smarter choices. Now what? Where do we go from here?
Right.
What can you, the listener, do?
I think the biggest thing is just to remember that this is a journey.
Yeah.
It's not a destination. It's not about finding that one magic formula or winning the lottery.
Right.
It's about making those conscious choices.
Okay.
Learning from your experiences and being open to adapting as things change.
Right. Because it's always evolving, isn't it?
Always evolving.
Always.
So before we sign off, we always like to leave you guys with something to ponder.
Okay.
What is one small, calculated risk that you can take today to move you closer to your financial goals?
That's a great question. Doesn't have to be a big leap. It could be, setting up that budget, researching a new investment, or even just talking to a financial advisor. Those baby steps. It's amazing what those small steps can lead to over time.
Absolutely.
Well, that is it for our deep dive on the 7 mistakes keeping you from getting rich. We hope you guys enjoyed it.
We did.
We hope you learned something. But most importantly, we hope that you take action.
That's it.
Don't let this information just sit there.
No.
Do something with it.
Yeah.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep striving towards those financial dreams.
Absolutely. And remember, we're here to support you every step of the way.
That's right. We'll see you guys next time. We're back, wrapping up our deep dive into these 7 mistakes keeping you from getting rich. And I have to say, just reflecting on everything we've talked about,
Yeah,
really eye-opening stuff.
absolutely.
But, we've covered a lot of ground, explored these mistakes in detail.
Yeah,
But now it's about action, right?
it is. It is.
So for you, the listener, what's that one key takeaway that you can implement, like today,
Right.
to make a real difference in your financial life?
If I had to kind of boil it all down to like one core message,
Yeah.
it's that building wealth.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing thing.
Right.
It's a process.
Yeah.
It's not about, finding that magic formula
Right.
or winning the lottery. It's about making those conscious choices,
Being intentional, yeah.
being intentional, learning from your mistakes,
Yeah.
and adapting.
Okay.
Because the financial landscape is always changing.
Always changing, yeah. And I think it's also, it's not about being perfect.
No, not at all.
I think we all make mistakes.
We do.
Even the most successful, entrepreneurs and investors, they've
Yeah.
made mistakes along the way. But it's about viewing those as learning opportunities.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's a great point to emphasize because, we don't want you to walk away from this feeling overwhelmed or discouraged.
Right.
It's really about equipping you with the knowledge and
Yeah.
the awareness.
The tools.
The tools, exactly, to navigate your financial journey with more confidence.
So as we wrap up this episode, we always like to leave you with something to ponder, something to think about.
Yeah.
What's just one small calculated risk
Okay.
that you can take today to move you closer to those goals?
It doesn't have to be this huge leap.
Right.
It could be as simple as setting up a budget,
Right.
researching a new investment strategy, or even just finally having that conversation
Right.
with a financial advisor that you've been putting off.
Yeah, those baby steps. It's amazing what those small steps can lead to over time.
It is. It's those small, consistent actions.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for our deep dive on the 7 mistakes keeping you from getting rich.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed it.
We hope you learned something. We hope it was, as engaging and insightful for you as it was for us. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep striving for those financial dreams.
Absolutely. And we are here to support you
Yeah,
every step of the way.
that's right. We'll see you
Okay.
guys next time.